Tonight on CFTK-TV News, Smithers RCMP sees firearms, drugs, and ammunition. A recap on Trump's Liberation Day, and BC businesses pivot to new markets.
Northwest BC's only television news team. We are CFTK-TV News.
Hello, and thanks for joining us on this Thursday, April 3rd, 2025. I'm Jaylene Matthews. A recent investigation done by the Smithers RCMP led to them discovering a serious amount of illegal items during a pair of searches. During a proactive vehicle stop, the officers on the scene discovered various prohibited firearms and later ended up arresting all three of the individuals that were in the vehicle. Their investigation progressed forward and police obtained a search warrant for a residence in Smithers, which led to the seizure of more firearms, cash, a quantity of drugs, and some other weapons. The investigation is still ongoing and is part of police efforts in Smithers to enhance public safety by reducing the presence of illegal weapons and drugs in the community. Work that's being done to improve the quality of Thomas Street Road on Lanphier Hill. While it was initially planned for the area to get one new pathway added, it will be two new pathways added instead to help create more accessible transportation routes for non-motorist travelers. The city recently got an active transportation infrastructure grant from the BC Ministry of Transportation and Transit at a total of $413,880. The construction work is expected to be fully completed sometime in the summer. A rap duo based out of Kitimat Village recently made history at the yearly award show that recognizes the best that Canadian music has to offer in the 2025 edition of the Junos. The Snotty Nose Rez Kids, a duo made up of Quinton Young Tribes Nice and Darren Young D. Metz, won the award for Best Rap Album of the Year for their work on their most recent album, Red Future. The historical value of this award win comes from the fact that they are the first ever Indigenous group to receive the award. The duo also performed live at the show. And a dust advisory continues to be in effect for Smithers due to high concentrations of coarse particulate matter that are expected to persist unless there's precipitation. Exposure is a concern for anyone with chronic conditions, pregnant women, seniors, and infants. People with chronic underlying medical conditions or acute infections should postpone strenuous exercise or outdoor activities. Prime Minister Mark Carney says UF tariffs on Canadian goods are unjustified, unwarranted, and misguided. He announced today that Canada will match President Donald Trump's 25% auto tariffs with a levy on vehicles imported from the United States. Carney says this could generate $8 billion, and that money would be used to support companies and workers hurt by American auto tariffs. It comes as automaker Stellantis decided to temporarily pause production at its assembly plant in Windsor, Ontario for 2 weeks as it assesses the effects of the recently announced levies. Pierre Poilievre says a Conservative government will take the GST off all new Canadian-made cars as long as U.S. levies are in place. NDP leader Jagmeet Singh proposes issuing victory bonds to help Ottawa raise funds to help fight back. President Donald Trump's much-anticipated Liberation Day didn't carry the punch we expected for Canada, although other countries did get hit. Here's CTV's St. John Alexander with the event recap.
Surrounded by pomp in the White House Rose Garden, filled with supporters and American flags, the U.S. president celebrated so-called Liberation Day with a twist on his catchphrase.
The day that we began to make America wealthy again.
Claiming that the U.S. is a victim, that other countries have cheated and ransacked the world's biggest economy and torn apart the American dream.
For decades, our country has been looted, pillaged, raped, and plundered by nations near and far, both friend and foe alike.
Trump says he will impose a 10% baseline tariff on nations all over the world. But as he held up a list of detailed country tariffs, Canada and Mexico were not there.
We weren't on page 1, we weren't on page 2, we weren't on page 3.
Canada and Mexico appear to be exempt from items that are compliant with the latest trade deal.
But the fentanyl tariffs still remain in place. as do the tariffs for steel and aluminum.
Mark Carney, in his role as Prime Minister, took a break from the campaign to rally his troops.
It will be negative on the U.S. economy. That will have an impact on us. But the series of measures will directly affect millions of Canadians.
The announcement created more uncertainty. Timed after the stock markets closed, futures are already looking grim.
He's creating then confusion among all of us. That in itself can bring an economy to its knees, to a recession.
And why is he doing it? To reduce taxes on the billionaires.
Trump has essentially created a global trade war, betting it will bring jobs and manufacturing back to the United States.
It's based on the idea that we can just start manufacturing everything here overnight, and that's not how a free trade market existed in the first place.
Reciprocal, that means they do it to us and we do it to them.
Whatever was discussed between Carney and Trump last week seems to have given Canada some breathing room. But Trump has shown he can easily change his mind. St. John Alexander, CTV News, Vancouver.
Coming up next, a BC family demands answers. Welcome back. Experts say it's a fantasy to think that Canadian companies can just switch supply chains in response to U.S. tariffs. A university business professor in BC says auto, lumber, and steel producers would face some of the toughest challenges in the hunt for new markets. Ulrich Passion says buyers would be reluctant to pay the transport costs for lumber and steel. He says companies will loathe to make major changes to their supply chains unless they think hefty tariffs are here for the long haul. And some BC politicians warn that the political waters remain turbulent and to expect anything. Here's CTV's Rob Buffum.
Even though BC and the rest of the country seemingly dodged a tariff bullet Wednesday, the NDP government says it still needs to remain vigilant.
The challenge we have is that this continues to change hour by hour, day by day, and anything can still happen.
The government pushing ahead with its plan for legislation allowing it to respond to tariffs, including tolling commercial trucks headed to Alaska. The Premier advocating for the bill, citing economic troubles already happening as a result of the trade war.
See already the impact on stock markets, the impact on consumer confidence, the impact on prices.
The opposition BC Conservative leader calls it overreach, especially given Canada escaped the reciprocal tariffs.
I wonder why we're in the legislature today debating Bill 7 to give this government extraordinary powers. What is the purpose of doing that when we are not facing these tariffs? This is simply a power grab by this government. With regard to the tariffs, I'm very pleased that we're not facing those additional tariffs like many other countries are. But clearly, because we're debating this today in the legislature, this bill should simply just be withdrawn.
Meanwhile, the softwood lumber sector, already subject to 14% duties and fearing catastrophic punishment if new tariffs were imposed, sighed some relief. Hopeful Trump got the message about the harm levies on the industry could cause Americans.
The president ran on a campaign to build more homes. He is not going to be able to accomplish that goal when he's adding over $10,000 in U.S. costs to building homes.
While the province eluded new tariffs, BC's credit rating didn't go unscathed, getting its fourth straight downgrade under the NDP Wednesday. Two credit agencies dropping its score in light of a growing deficit and a lack of plans to reach a balanced budget.
We did know that this was a strong likelihood given the complex circumstance we find ourselves in with the high risk of tariff impact.
The well-being of youth in government care took center stage at the BC legislature during its latest question period, where the opposition Conservatives grilled the NDP on the January death of an 18-year-old. The family of the Indigenous teen was watching from the gallery as the opposition criticized the government, saying the victim was found unresponsive near her group home on a night where temperatures fell well below freezing. Premier David Eby said he's assuring the teen's family that the province will get them the answers they deserve. Here's CTV's Isabella Zavaris with more.
holding each other close. Relatives of Chantel Williams lean on one another for strength as they plead with the province for closure.
I'm still wondering and asking, and I never get answers from them.
George Newcomis wants to know what led to the death of his 18-year-old granddaughter. On January 28th, a person found her in the 4900 block of Ian Avenue in Port Alberni. She was unresponsive and died later that day.
And they said she died of natural causes? That's not right. Then they will not give me any answers yet. I'm in the dark.
Williams died only a few blocks away from her group home on a cold winter night. She was under the guardianship of Usma Nuchanalth Child and Family Services. Her loved ones say she had recently spent time in the hospital, but didn't know why.
She was supposed to get checked up on. And then when she was released from the hospital all by herself, that wasn't supposed to happen.
The teen spent most of her life in care, disconnected from family.
We were separated, and I really wish we weren't separated.
Her brother Justin describes her as someone who cared about others.
And she had so much to live for. She was such a young, smart girl that tried to keep herself strong through these tough times.
She was way too young to die. And I think we just need some answers.
It has been 64 days since Chantel's death.
The BC Conservative Party is calling for a coroner's inquest.
All too often these cases are treated like a one-off when in reality there's a systemic problem.
When pressed for when the family can expect answers, the Children and Families Minister cited privacy laws.
I know that can be excruciating. My expectation is that while families are going through the unimaginable, that we are supporting them in any way that we possibly can.
The Premier has promised to launch an investigation. Williams' family hopes that by sharing her story, others won't have to lose a loved one this way. Isabella Zavarisi, CTV News.
Turning to the weather, the moon's current phase for today and tonight is a waxing crescent phase at 34% illumination. The sun rose at 7:01 a.m. today and will set at 8:14 p.m. Tonight on the north coast, expect conditions to be clear with increasing cloudiness overnight and a low of +5 degrees. For the next few days on the north coast, expect temperatures in the 9 to 12 degree range with periods of rain and showers. Overnight temperatures in the 4 to 7 degree range. Tonight in the Terrace-Kitimat area, conditions are looking clear with increasing cloudiness overnight and a low of +3 degrees. Over the next few days in the Terrace-Kitimat area, temperatures will sit in the 7 to 13 degree range, with clouds Friday, then periods of rain coming on the weekend. Overnight lows sit in the 3 to 7 degree range. Tonight in the Bulkley Valley and Lakes District, expect clear conditions becoming partly cloudy this evening, fog patches developing before morning and a low of -7 degrees. Over the next few days in the Bulkley Valley and Lakes District, expect a high of 16 degrees and sunshine on Saturday, then cooling off to 12 degrees with a chance of showers Sunday. Overnight lows between freezing and 3 degrees. Checking your highways in the Northwest region now. On Highway 16, there's utility work between Rainbow Avalanche Gates and Rainbow Chain Up. There's utility work between East Amesbury and Spokeshute Street. There's road sweeping between Sisqua Forest Service Road and Owens Road. On Highway 37, there's line painting between Nalabila Boulevard and Terrace. There's maintenance between Cranberry Bridge number 2 and Highway 37A Junction. Watch also for frost heaves and slippery sections. And on Telegraph Creek Road, there are muddy sections and the rest area is closed at Burnt Trailer, Tanzilla Access. Still to come, Vancouver businesses pivot. Thanks for staying with us. Mounties in Crown Brook are reminding parents to be aware of their children's online activity after a 20-year-old man was arrested for targeting local teens online. The RCMP issued a warning last month after seeing an uptick in online activity targeting girls between the ages of 11 and 14. They had said the girls were contacted through social media by an unknown man and were then asked for intimate images in exchange for money, drugs, or alcohol. Police have now confirmed a man was arrested for several sexual and online offenses, but he has been released on an undertaking until his next court appearance. In managing this economic landscape, some BC businesses have already pivoted to alternate customers than American. Shannon Patterson explains.
Canfor ships $60 million worth of corrugated cardboard from its Surrey manufacturing facility to the U.S. each year. When it became clear Canada won't be hit with another round of tariffs, the owner was relieved, but not surprised.
The administration probably at the end of the day realized that there's a huge difference between starting a trade war with your immediate neighbor that you share the longest border with and obviously the largest amount of trade than anyone else in the world. And I think for now it seems like they've come to their senses.
At Santa Via Water Systems in Delta, where 30% of its mineralized filters are shipped south of the border.
I'm obviously happy that we don't have a massive tariff and that that part of our business is still going to be thriving tomorrow. But if you were to ask me to bet money on whether or not, that will be thriving in a month from now, I don't know.
As long as Trump's in the White House, both companies expect the tariff uncertainty to continue.
It does definitely feel like we are riding a roller coaster for sure.
I think it's going to just be like it's been the last few months, which is on again, off again tariffs, a changing landscape. And ultimately, none of that's good for the consumer, for small business like us.
While Cancor's owner hopes his American clients will ignore the turmoil and keep buying, he is actively pursuing other markets.
All the industries are preparing for self-reliancy in the long term, and that's regardless of Donald Trump and this administration, because the message has been clear, and we did feel that we've been slacking on sort of standing on our own 2 feet, and we've been relying way too much on the United States.
They're erratic. They change their minds quite often, and so we don't really know what's going on.
So Santa Via is shelving its U.S. expansion plans to focus on the UK and Australia. More expensive to ship, but right now, much more reliable. Shannon Patterson, CTV News.
Turning to the markets now, financial markets around the world reeled following President Donald Trump's latest and most severe set of tariffs, and the U.S. stock market took the worst of it. All 3 major U.S. stock indexes were down significantly as the markets closed, with the Nasdaq falling almost 6% or more than 1,000 points. The TSX was down almost 4% or more than 900 points. The Canadian dollar rose by just over a penny. Gold dropped $44.50, oil dropped $4.76, natural gas was up 9 cents, aluminum dropped $18.50. In Toronto, the TSX was down 971 points, the Venture Index dropped almost 17, the Dow Jones dropped 1,679 points, and the Nasdaq fell 1,050 points. Still ahead, the migration of humpback whales. Thanks for staying with us. The Canadian lead author on a study on humpback whales is urging governments along the species' migration routes to step up protection efforts to prevent entanglements. McGill University biologist Virginie Millian says the study on a population of whales migrating from Central America to Antarctica up to 2016 shows the animals are adjusting the annual 10,000-kilometer migration due to warming waters. Millian says researchers are worried that rapid climate change since 2016 will further put stress on the species. Here's CTV's Andrew Garland with more on the humpback whales that migrate through Pacific waters.
Tourists visiting the Harbor City today are hoping to get up close and personal with some of the Salish seas
majestic mammals.
I would love to see some orcas or like other whales.
I'd love to see orcas first and foremost, but any whale would be really pretty great.
There's a good chance for these whale seekers of seeing a humpback who come visit these waters every spring.
I think that would be really exciting to see one of those.
It's an immense animal, so I would love to see one.
On Monday, just off Departure Bay, Nanaimo, Vancouver Island Whale Watch captured these images of a humpback whale.
We know that it migrated because it has some cookie cutter marks on it, which are only found in the tropical regions. So yeah, we've got our first humpback of the season.
Hundreds of humpbacks will be passing through as they head north to their summer feeding grounds in Alaska. But there is also a large population who stay in the Strait of Georgia for the summer.
Kind of early and late in the year is when you get the ones that might just be migrating through, but the vast majority that we see on our tours are here to feed for the whole summer.
The Department of Fisheries and Oceans estimates roughly 400 humpbacks come to feed in just the southern part of Vancouver Island and the mainland alone, making it critical to do our part to share these waters with them.
So risks like getting hit by boats or getting entangled in fishing gear do increase.
Recently, researchers have been looking at scarring on humpback whales' bodies from entanglements.
At least 47%, so almost half of the humpback whales that we see off the coast here have survived at least one entanglement in the past.
DFO adds that people need to be aware that humpbacks are out there and give them space if you've seen one.
The first thing you'll see is its blow or its breath above the surface. So watching out for that if you're on the water, slowing down.
People can report entanglements or vessel strikes by calling the number on your screen. Andy Garland, CTV News, Nanaimo.
Finally, we leave you tonight with a story of love for a tree. Here's CTV's Adam Swatsky.
A few years after Marie and Derek got married, they bought a house and planted a tree.
So over the years, of course, the tree grew and grew and grew.
Although their love blossomed, the cherry tree never bore fruit until the couple were advised to prune it way back every few years.
The last time I did it, it did great. You know, we got a ton of fruit.
But this is a story about the time Marie pruned it after that.
It was quite the shock, I must admit, quite the shock.
I really cut it. To say the least, Derek wasn't overly impressed.
And Derek started expressing his disappointment daily.
He'd just shake his head and go, oh, you've killed it.
We all know what stick people are. That's exactly what it looked like to me, a stick person.
And not raising its stick arm in a welcoming wave sort of stick person. So Marie went searching for a solution. And while considering her passion for pups,
because they don't talk back,
felt compelled to craft a canine costume for the stick person tree.
And sure enough, I put it up, and he never said another word about it.
And now, rather than criticizing Marie's cutting, and after this first face was temporarily lost in a windstorm and their daughter donated another, Derek is offering kudos for his wife's creativity, if not occasionally taking credit.
People that walk by in the street say, oh, I love your tree. I'm going, thank you.
Because after being married for 40 years, Marie and Derek agree. The secret to overcoming life's inevitable ups and prune way downs is to live in the moment.
You accept it as it is.
And find a way to fill the moment with amusement.
Smiling, laughing, goofing around.
There's a bloom here.
And you just might find that even if these tiny pink buds become big cherry growing branches, you'll both still affectionately call it your dogwood tree.
I think it looks better.
Adam Sawatsky, CTV News, Saanich.
That's our news for now. For more local news, you can visit us at cftktv.com. Thanks for watching.